Hello and welcome to this October edition of Property News. Today I'm going to give you an update on the UK economy, talk about what's happening right now in the property market, give you my predictions for the next couple of months, and add a few really important tasks to your to-do list. So my name is Tony Law from Your First Four Houses, and my channel is all about helping you replace a job-based income with just a handful of investment properties, so you can give up the day job if you wish and go and do something more interesting with your life, like skydiving. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click that bell notification icon so that you don't miss out on any of the free content I give you each and every week. So let's start things off by looking at the UK economy. As I'm sure you're already fully aware, the official number for world deaths due to COVID passed the 1 million milestone tragically in September. And as we move into October, the second wave is well and truly established, with localised lockdown measures being introduced in certain key areas. In October, the current furlough scheme comes to an end. This will undoubtedly lead to a rise in unemployment, which is currently relatively low at 4.1%. However, it's important to note that 13.4% of 16 to 24-year-olds are now unemployed, partly due to the fact that the younger age group was generally the first to be furloughed. It's also interesting to note that the under 25s now make up a third of all new universal credit claims. In August, the government borrowed £35.9 billion to tackle the economic fallout from the pandemic. This figure, which is basically the difference between the amount the government spends and the tax income that it brings in, was £30 billion more than it borrowed in August of 2019. This is the highest August borrowing figure on record. On 24th of September, the Chancellor unveiled the new emergency job scheme, whereby the government and businesses will work together to top up wages of workers who have not been able to return to work full-time due to coronavirus. The job support scheme, which replaces the furlough scheme, should ensure workers get 3/4 of their normal salary for up to 6 months. Its aim is obviously to stop mass job cuts. However, according to the Chancellor, the new scheme will only support viable jobs, although at the time of filming it's still slightly unclear on what qualifies as a viable job. The new scheme starts on the 1st of November and will cost the government an estimated £300 million every month. In September, the Chancellor announced that businesses would be given more time to repay any money that they have borrowed through the government's loan scheme. So if you took out a bounce back loan, you can now use the new pay-as-you-grow flexible repayment system, which means the loan can be repaid over 10 years rather than the original 6. This longer repayment term will also apply to those who borrowed under the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. Last month, I have to confess, I got one prediction completely wrong. I predicted a big push from the government to get workers back into the office place. But the government has done a complete U-turn on this message, and they're now asking people to work from home if they possibly can due to the current rise in COVID cases. As a result, city centres have been noticeably quieter in recent weeks, which is obviously having, sadly, a knock-on effect to the businesses that service these centres. And lastly, I've got to end this section on at least one positive note, otherwise this is just all doom and gloom, and also a complete geek as well. And so can I just share that in October I was amazed to hear Tesco stores in County Galway is starting a trial delivery by drone. This is surely going to be one of the coolest things I have ever heard. I just wish I lived within a mile's radius of that store. Okay, so let's move on to property. Well, the first thing I've obviously got to say here is that we're clearly still in the middle of a mini boom. Rightmove actually recorded a 0.2% increase in average house price sales between August and September, which equates to an annual positive change of 5%. The northern regions were the strongest for price jumps, with Yorkshire and Humber, East Midlands, West Midlands, North East, North West and Scotland all at new record highs. However, late in September, the Centre for Economics and Business Research made a pretty scary prediction. You, I'm sure, have already heard this. They stated that they believe house prices will fall by 13.8% in 2021. And they even went on to say that they expect that house prices will start to fall before this year is out. From the 21st of September, the courts once again started hearing possession cases. However, there is a huge backlog of cases waiting to be heard, which is obviously going to lead to some further delays in terms of processing. And lastly for this section, I have long been an advocate of smaller housing units because I personally believe that with excellent design, you don't necessarily need a huge amount of space in a property. I was therefore delighted when the government made some significant changes to some permitted development rights during the summer. Amongst other things, these included allowing investors to convert some empty shops into housing and also building 2 additional stories onto certain types of buildings. However, in September, Labour tried to overturn these changes, and I'm delighted to say they were unsuccessful, and the new PD rights remain intact. I honestly believe that moving into the future we need to continually rethink our approach to the high street as the way that we shop changes and evolves. After all, do any of us really believe that 20 years from now there will be as much demand for certain types of shops? I personally don't. And I know this is a bit of a savage thing to talk about, but in fact I personally believe that a reduction in the number of shops that are out there on the high street over time is not only an absolute certainty as we change the way that we buy goods, I think that in many ways it's actually a really good thing if it means more people can have access to their own home. So converting some of these empty shops and offices into quality, compact residential units with a minimum size of 37 square metres is a really good thing, and these new PD rights give us the ability to do just that. By the way, if you're finding this update in any way helpful, it would just be awesome if you could click on that like button down there if that's okay. It really helps me. So moving on to the scary bit for the month, which is my predictions. First of all, I've got to make it absolutely clear what follows in both this section and also my to-do list section in a moment are just my personal views, and I may well be wrong. You've got to form your own opinions and do your own due diligence, especially when it comes to any deals that you may be considering. So firstly, I believe the Chancellor's new job support scheme will slow but not stop major job losses, especially since he's already emphasised that the new scheme is there to support viable jobs only. Despite what SEBA says, I predict house prices won't now fall significantly before the year is out. A further fuller lockdown will be implemented in November, in my opinion, but it is just my opinion, just a kind of gut feeling, and I really hope that I'm wrong about that. I think lots more developers will default on personal loans towards the end of this year and into next. This is because I believe sales will start to slow down, and surveyors will also really start to downgrade the values that they're putting out there to reduce lenders' risk. This combination will mean developers are less likely to get to the level of profit that they had been hoping for, and are therefore less able to repay personal loans, even though they may want to. And on this subject, I reckon we're going to see a lot more undervaluations as lenders try to protect themselves against any future drop in prices. And lastly, since my next property news comes out on the 4th of November and the US election is on the 3rd of November, can I just say that I personally think Biden is going to win. At least I hope he will. And lastly, let me give you a few quick key actions for your to-do list. So number 1, don't lend money unless you have a firm contract in place and also ideally a charge on a property. And by lend money, I mean lend money to a developer. I've done a video on this, please check it out. I feel really strongly that I need to kind of get that message out there to protect you, the people that subscribe to my channel. My second one is make a note of all of the auction dates that are coming up for the remainder of this year and also moving into the early part of next year. You've got to do this. I honestly think that there are going to be some fantastic opportunities coming up in auctions, probably geared around semi-commercial or commercial and residential combinations, for example, because there are so many commercial properties that are kind of currently empty or just simply not viable at the moment. And many of these are going to be going to auction. on this kind of basis, start looking for empty shops in secondary areas, i.e. not in the main high street, in those secondary areas. Some of these were originally houses that were converted into shops, and now they're empty. There's real potential to convert these back into residential, in many cases using PD rights, and maybe converting them into 2 houses or 2 flats. You've got to be out there looking for those. Along a similar vein, I honestly think you need to learn the new PD rights, and I'm going to put a link to a document in the description box below which will run you through it. Warning, it is a very long, very boring document, but just sit down, wade your way through it with a pen and paper, make lots of notes, because there's so much money that you can potentially make out of the new PD rights. This is the one I always get worried about saying. I'm still saying that now is maybe not the best time to buy property. I've said that for the past 2 or even 3 months actually. I am still saying it again. I am focusing though on residential when I say that, because I do think personally the market is still slightly bloated in terms of price. So for this month, residential, I'm still saying is maybe not the best time to buy. Next, I want you to keep your eyes open, please, for my brand new webinar, the 3 golden rules for building a property portfolio using just 1 deposit. I'm currently working on it at the time of filming. It's going to be awesome. Keep your eyes open for that. And lastly, I have grouped together a 10 video playlist here on YouTube that will teach you all of the fundamentals that you need to know to build your own portfolio without needing to put money into each and every deal. And I would love you to sit down and watch all 10 of those videos back to back as soon as possible. You'll find the link for these coming up on the left-hand side of your screen right about now.